So when we have people who are hypervigilant to patterning other people's behavior, regardless of whether that's like neurological, neurodevelopmental, like autism and ADHD sometimes, or anxiety or depression or whatever other mental health condition predisposes them to that, as well as trauma. Like trauma, any kind of traumatic exposure can make you hypervigilant to these things. So, or combinations within, we'll end up with a person who is patterning and the pattern gets broken. You have now cracked that egg and this person is emotionally activated. To whatever level, they expect this sign to mean something. And that's usually traumatic, right? Like if you are used to growing up in an environment where a person angrily doing chores near you was ignored, that was enough to cause you to get into more potential danger and harm. Right? So you are going to respond to a person who appears to be frustrated and angry doing chores near you, even if they're not necessarily frustrated at you, right? Because your brain says, I know this. I know what's going to happen next, because it has happened next for a lot of people, right? So what's happening is we're going to move into the 5 trauma responses: fight, flight, freeze, fawn, or flop. Most people know fight or flight. Fight being, I'm going to take this pain and this suffering and I'm going to engage you. I'm going to antagonize you. I'm going to get in an argument with you. There's flight. I'm going to go skitter away and be as small and as quiet and not here as possible because that's what keeps me safe. All of these are for keeping you safe. All of them. They're not intentionally manipulative. They're not harming you. They are not being leveraged by most people in this. They are literally just trying to survive. If there are people who are using this to like consistently leverage and excuse their behavior, that's a different conversation. But these are just ways people respond to protect themselves. And that's where it starts. They're trying to protect themselves. So fight, flight, freeze. Freeze is either dissociation or like bunny in the bushes, right? If I don't act, if I don't move, if I don't do anything, maybe they won't see me, right? So you go into this sort of freeze mode or dissociative mode where like you're just absent to a certain degree, maybe autopiloting, right? So fight, flight, freeze, fawn. Fawn is harder to detect if you are not very observant, because people who fawn are usually the placaters, the sort of calm, okay, let me take care of you. Okay, and a lot of people are like, oh, finally, I'm getting taken care of. Yeah, that's good. Our relationship's great. Except what these people have done is usually absent themselves in a way of placating the external world at the cost of the internal, like F5 tornado running around inside of them. So it's sort of the opposite of fight. Most people think flight is, but this is more of an internalization, and the tornado's here rather than the fight where it's externalized, right? So this is the pain is internalized, and usually these people will make sure that the other person gets calmed and taken care of and, you know, petted and everything else, right? They are the placaters. And then we have flop, which is another response that is somebody who just shuts down. We see this a lot in the like overwhelm, systemic overwhelm, people who just are shutting down and they can't do much but get out of bed, and go to the bathroom kind of people. Like this is a shutdown. This is a collapsing of self. And typically what we're dealing with all of this is that you don't necessarily just pick one of these. Usually there's a dominant one or two that you will go to as a standard. And then depending on the context, others will come into play. And some people rapid cycle between lots of them depending on their mental health conditions. So those are like the generalized overviews. If you want me to go into them like specifically for each one and examples, let me know.